I'm going to
department, so she'll take care of it.
call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes, and then I have a couple things that are not on the, at least one thing that's not on the agenda. So can I have a motion for the minutes?
I'll motion that we accept them.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I guess my position will allow me to cut into the middle here. I think everybody on the committee, or if you read it in the newspaper, if you do read that thing, I'm sorry, if you do read the newspaper, just want to congratulate Michelle and her department again, formally at this meeting. Again, they were awarded the auditor's certificate.
It was actually GFOA.
GFOA, okay.
Yep.
That's because I'm old and remember it was the auditor's certificate. But again, it really means something. It just shows that when they go through everything, that whether you agree or disagree with how we do or don't do things, with the commission, our finance department takes care of everything, and it just shows that we've got everything accounted for. I just, again, Michelle, on behalf of this committee, I would like to congratulate you and your staff on, again, receiving this.
Thank you guys very much, and I want to definitely say thank you to my staff because they know it's of the utmost importance for us to do things right. And so obviously, in our office, I think our awards go back to 1992 that we have received this award. So obviously, it's a long history. Yeah, a long history of doing things right here for financial reporting. So we appreciate it.
Yes. Good. So just, I guess, on behalf of the committee, we just want to congratulate you. I think everybody emailed you, but again, formally congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the other item that I would like to handle is we have a new member of the Finance Committee, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself and give you your 30 seconds of fame.
Sure, yeah. Joe Ramey, resident here. I am a CPA, do the accounting and finance at Barnes Nursery. Locally, also the treasurer for Karen Share downtown on Jackson Street, so happy to be here. Excited. Yep.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You might also mention you were at Ian Ernst & Young.
Yeah, I was an auditor for 5 years at Ernst & Young in Cleveland
We
as
won't hold
well
that against
before
you.
that, so, yeah, right, yeah. So, that's my background.
Okay. Again, welcome aboard. Okay, let's get into new business.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, can we do roll call real quick?
I'm sorry?
Can we do roll call real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
I forgot. I got to get used to that. Okay.
All right, Mr. Stahl?
Hello, President.
Mr. Ramey?
Present.
Mr. Ruthloff?
Present.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mr. Thomasula?
Here.
And instead of Mr. Murray, we've got Mr. Brady here today.
Here.
Mr. Orzak?
Here.
And myself are here. Thank you.
Okay. See, you have your staff, I have you to keep each straight. Okay. This year, we are going back to using Ray and Associates for our audit firm. I was joking with them that we use them a number of times, and then the state makes us rotate away from a private firm and go to the state, and I think we've had them for the last 5 years.
The state we had for 2 years.
2 years? Okay.
Felt like 5, but it was only 2.
Well, it seems like. Okay. I invited Ray and Associates just to, introduce themselves because not only will they be doing the audit, they have a separate division that will be doing our report. So whoever wants to at least introduce themselves is,
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm assuming we're using this as our pre-conference.
Yep, good morning, everybody. My name is Morgan Helmick with Rain Associates. I'll be the partner in charge of the audit this year, and I've got Tim Harold with me, the manager on the audit, and then Nicole Ratliff will be the in charge as well. This is our first year back, so we were on for about 11 years, and then we had to rotate off 2 years. The state has a 10-year cap on the number of year audits that a firm can complete before they require a rotation. And then, so to get started, just as an introduction, with Rain Associates, we've got about 15 offices, about 430 employees now. We're always within the last couple, numerous years, we're a top 100 accounting firm in the nation. We issue about 150 government audits a year between cities, counties, traditional schools, some community colleges. We compile, like Al said, we also have a separate division that does a financial statement prep. So they compile about 100 financial statement ACFRs a year. We've got 6 segment partners. This is primarily the makeup of the team this year. We've also got Chagwar Fido, who's going to be acting as the concurring review. So it'll require a detailed concurring review since it is a uniform guidance audit as well as a first-year audit for the firm. Other than that, it's uniform guidance. So kind of some preliminary numbers. We've been given ledgers. We started doing some walkthroughs. We're still in that information gathering stage of the audit itself right now, so we can develop our risk-based audit approach. But looking at some numbers will most likely end up being state and local fiscal recovery funds, and then transit will be the 2 major programs we'll have to audit this year. Due to some reporting issues in the prior year, you are deemed high risk for uniform guidance because there was a couple issues in the last year's audit. So we have to meet 40% coverage this year. And as well, transit's always it's a large enough program, so it's considered a type A program. Since you spend over $750,000, it's over $750,000 a year, so we have to look at that program once every 3 years. So that's an automatic rotation in. And then state local fiscal recovery funds are deemed high risk by the federal government, so that's an automatic look at as well. So those will make up the 2 programs we look at. But as our year rotation back on, we'll be doing a lot of different, updating our narratives from the since 2 years we were gone. We, as part of our firm's approach, we're going to confirm all debt. We're going to confirm various revenue sources, income taxes, EMIS, those type of things, where you have a service provider in place. Various tests of details over your collections, as well as some high-level analytics, those type of things. I have as well, I'll leave this with the committee. This is our charge with governance letter. As an introduction to the audit, so it's going to kind of summarize our responsibilities of the audit, your responsibilities of the audit, timelines. Everything's due to the state by June 30th. So that's already been, schedule's been set with Michelle as far as when we'll be doing our plan, wrapping up our planning stages, our cash testing stages, which is going to be your normal day-to-day details type of stuff, collections, payroll, non-payroll, compliance with Ohio Revised Code, and then we'll circle back in when that ACFR is prepared and then come out and do some gap testing over capital assets, payables, debt, those type of things. Other than that, I'll hand it over to Tim, kind of go over the arrangement letter a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, like Morgan said, I'm Tim Harold. I'm the manager on the audit. Before you guys got pulled back in by the state, I was actually the auditor in charge of the audit, so I am familiar with the city, and I've worked with them for a few years previously on the last rotation. I'm just going to go over the arrangement letter that we issued to Michelle a couple weeks ago, and we already worked through all of that. I'm just going to go on a very high level for you guys. There's a lot of legal jargon in there. I know a lot of you have seen these types of arrangement letters for many years.
Most of us see that on a daily basis.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Mr. Rainey.
Nothing's your fault, nothing's our fault. We did our best.
That's the rep letter.
Arrangement letter spells that out.
The first thing we put in the audit is just the scope of the audit. As Morgan said, you guys do qualify as a single audit, so we will be performing our audit not only based on the gap procedures that we do develop, we will also have uniform guidance that is part of this audit, and we will go through that. And the uniform guidance will have some control testing that we will be performing, while the gap testing, we won't opine on those controls, but we will be performing limited control procedures. We outline within the letter the responsibilities for us, the auditor, in performing your audit as a whole. And then we also, as you guys already alluded to, we also outlined the responsibilities of his management where we try to take away all the blame. So, and then as we already alluded to, we do have a separate team that does perform the preparation services for the ACFR for you guys on an annual basis. That is outlined as a non-audit service. We do have independent standards that we do deal with, but we outlined that this is performed by a completely separate team. The partners that are on this job with Morgan and Chad Grafito are not involved in that preparation service as a completely separate team, so we do maintain our independence on that standpoint. Outside of that, we really just dive into the legal jargon on different relevant information, fees and costs, audit documentation, how we won't be maintaining audit documentation outside of our legal parameters, the confidentiality that the audit will be a confidential record until reviewed by the state and released as public record. But that is pretty much the high-level view of the arrangement letters, if anyone has any questions on that.
I just wanted to invite you in as, again, you probably wanted to come in as a pre-audit conference anyway, so, and I said, Michelle, seeing that we've rotated back to you, that.
We appreciate the opportunity to come back out and work with the city. It was a pleasure the last round we had. So we continue to grow this relationship, and hopefully we can be here for the next 10 years till we're capped out again. And then, we will be speaking directly with a few individuals on the committee to ask you some questions, those type of things as part of the audit process, anything you feel that you need to express to us as part of the audit, any concerns you might have as well. And then as well with that, we'll work with Michelle to plan our next visit back out for your meeting sometime around May, June area, most likely when we'll be doing the wrap up of the audit. We will have to go into an executive session at that point in time because it's not considered public knowledge until it's actually released by the Delaware State's office per our third-party contract with them. So at that point, we'll have to go to an executive session to discuss any results of the audit.
Okay. Thank you.
Michelle has our contact information. I can leave a couple cards if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to us directly. Feel free.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you wish to stay, you may. If you wish to go, because you may have something else to go, because I will leave that to your discretion. But you're not going to hurt our feelings if you leave. We'll just talk about you then.
That works.
Thank you.
Thank you. All of your be good.
You too.
So, Michelle, you're on.
You want to go ahead? January financials? Ooh. All right, so on the screen, you guys should all have it in front of you now that we have this figured out. This is last year, the December 2023 financials. First screen here, we're looking at the general fund revenue. Your blue line here indicates the income tax collected. So we were almost $13.9 million in income tax collection, real similar to where we were at the end of 2022. The gray line is our admissions tax collection. Obviously, our rate went from 4% up to 8%, so that's why there is a jump in admissions tax. In 2022, the orange line here is our lodging tax, and that number for lodging tax has been relatively flat for the last 2 years. Here's the total general fund revenue. Almost $34.5 million was collected last year. Obviously, a lot of that was attributed to the new admissions and parking tax. In addition to that, we had a large interest earnings last year because, as we all saw, the interest rate went up. So with the cash that we had in the bank last year, our interest earnings were almost $1.5 million. So quite substantial compared to where we were just a couple years ago. This, moving on to our expenses, this breaks down the expenses by the five top departments. The gray line at the top is administrative support, which also includes our transfers. We'll have some additional information on transfers here in a second. The red and blue line really runs neck to neck every year. That's our police and fire expenditures, red being fire and blue being the police department. Green line is our horticulture and public realm expenses. They've remained pretty consistent throughout the years. This chart goes back to 2018. And the yellow line is the municipal court, and they've remained pretty flat on their expenditures also. Going by category, you'll see the yellow line here is the transfers. Again, we've talked about it many times, but that is the increased transfers due to the emissions and parking tax that we saw beginning in 2022. The blue line is our wages and fringe benefits. So you'll see out here in 2018, $14.1 million were spent on wages and fringe benefits, and 5 years later, we're still under that figure. So we've done a really good job of maintaining wages and fringe benefit expenses throughout the years. Obviously, you'll see the dip in 2020. When COVID happened, we had to reduce some force when there was some layoffs, and through attrition, we lost some positions. But we have gained some additional employees back since then. The orange line down there is your contractual services, and the gray line is the supplies and materials. This shows the expenditures. So as a reminder, our revenue was almost $34.5 million. Our expenditures for the year were $34.3 million. So obviously living within our means for the year in 2023. With revenue versus expenditures, here's where we ended our cash balance at the end of the year, just over $6 million. Again, our target is 15 to 20% of what we expend annually, so the target balance, $4.6 to $6.1 million. Having that figure there, as we all know, whether uncertain times come ahead, we have a balance to rely on, obviously helps us when we're doing some debt financing also. So it's great to see, $6.1 million almost in the general fund at the end of the year. Here's the list of employees by department. Obviously, our largest department employees count goes to the police and fire department. And this just breaks it down. We had 245 full-time employees at the end of 2023.
Michelle, let me interrupt you for 1 second. Just, again, with the new member, there's a target that Moody's likes to see for bonding. Okay, that's when we talk about the percentage of cash that we would have at the end of the year. And that's something they've always praised us for. It's something we've always, strived to meet.
Sure.
Obviously, a few years ago, it was a little tough, but Moody's still likes us and gives us a good rating. So again, a lot of the stuff, the cash is for the bond rating.
Sure.
And we've got a very good bond rating, and we actually had Moody's physically come out here and visit us about 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
They
might go ahead and embarrass me.
it's been before COVID, last time they were out here, so probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes. So,
been a while.
but again, just try to
keep them happy. Yep.
Yeah.
reason. Okay.
Okay.
Then I'll explain to you the other fund.
Is that about 15, 20%?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. This last slide here, I wanted to highlight the transfers because that is a large amount that we transfer from our general fund to other areas. So this breaks it down of where the funds went. So there was $12.8 million expended as a transfer from the general fund to these other departments and other funds last year. The amount we gave housing was $500,000. Economic development, and this is for their economic development grants, they received $500,000 last year. The street department, $990,000. These next here, streets, recreation facilities, and these planning, these all came out when the issue 8 came out, so as referenced back in 2015. So streets is $990,000, recreation is $345,000, facilities and vehicles, that's $145,000, planning and special projects was $20,000. Public art and programming, these are legislative. This is actually set by ordinance. Public art gets 1% of the previous year's admissions tax, so they received $94,400. Programming, they get 10% of the previous year's lodging tax. So they received $182,904 for programming last year. Those programming dollars are what you see going to work a lot at the Party of the Pier events and things like that around town. The emissions tax and parking tax, $6.1 million was transferred from the general fund for the admissions and parking tax. That is where we have different promises for, the Causeway, destination development, the new rec center. Those promises are funded to the capital. It goes from the general fund to the capital projects fund is what those dollars do, and then they're broken down and segregated by different projects and different expenditures, programs, I guess, is the best word for that. Health insurance last year, they needed $1 million from the general fund. As a reminder, we're self-funded, so if there's a shortfall in the health insurance, the city's making up the difference. At the end of the year last year, the health insurance with this $1 million had $1.4 million cash balance. So that's obviously an item we're continuing to look at this year in 2024. We will be renegotiating with our unions for the next 3 years, and this will be a topic that will be addressed. Park and Recreation, they received $350,000. Police pension received $600,000. Fire pension was $850,000. Transit received $850,000. And the last bucket to receive money was Al's favorite, the Payroll Stabilization Fund, received $215,000 last year. And just for reference, payroll stabilization was created by this committee many years ago, and that fund takes care of any retirements or separations that we have, pays out for the sick leave, vacation leave, and things like that. So that helps stabilize our normal budget. Anybody that's paid out of the general fund at time of separation, their payout is actually paid through the payroll stabilization fund.
Gotcha.
Do we have any questions on the 2023 reports? I do also have January, which, as we all know, is only 1 month into the year, but we do have them here if we want to go over those quickly, just to see where we are standing currently. Revenue in January, this is the general fund again. Blue line is the income tax. Being 1 month in, you're going to see variances. It's a lot in timing. For income tax, whatever the regional income tax agency receives in December is what will show in January. So whether there was businesses that wanted a write-off at the end of last year, they'll make payments at the end of December that we receive in January. So that's what the income tax reflects for January, is any payments that Rita received in December are funneled to us then the following month in January. So income tax, is down from where we were in 2022, but it's up from where we were in 2023. Again, all timing. The difference in income tax right now is related to net profit returns.
Because we're on a cash basis throughout the year, and we don't go to accrual basis until we do the CAFR, just again, to keep everybody thinking the right way.
That is correct. Admissions tax and lodging tax, again, real similar, nothing alarming there. The total revenue that we collected in the general fund for January was $1.8 million, real similar to where we were in 2022. Expenses by category, blue line again is wages and fringe benefits, orange line is contractual services, gray line supplies and materials, and the yellow line is the transfers. Expenditures for the month of January, we had just over $2 million in expenditures for the month. That includes some transfers also, real similar to where we were in 2020. Cash balance, we're about $5.9 million at the end of January. Again, still in the target balance of 15 to 20% of our annual expenditures. And full-time employees, we gained 1 full-time employee. We have some up and downs every month. We had someone in the fire department that left, and we had a hire here in January. So that's the difference in the number of employee count. And when we talk about employee count, just as a reminder, and maybe for Mr. Ramey that hasn't been here. So when we look at employee count, there was a report that was done early 2020, it was started, and then obviously we had COVID. We had a company come in, Resource Network. They were looking at our finances and the city as a whole. The one area of concern they had was our employee count. They said, it probably wouldn't be sustainable for the future. So when we look at these employee numbers, I want to note that, okay, we're very similar to what we were in 2020, but we have 5 police officers that are funded by Cedar Point now. So Cedar Point reached out, they wanted us to take over their policing for the park. So there's 5 new employees that are going to be reflected on here that are fully funded by another source. So when you look at the numbers, those are included in there. We also have 3 additional firefighters that were mandated by a fact-finding report that we had to hire. So those are 8 positions that, are going to be reflected for total employee count that we have to do. So just a note for everyone, general knowledge there, I guess. Does anyone have any questions for the financial reports?
I have one through the chair. Sure. It's kind of a balance sheet question real quick. Where were long-term liabilities at the end of '23 as an aggregate amount?
I don't have that number. We'll be compiling that.
To our cash basis. We don't have a balance sheet during the year.
Well, I understand that, but we were going through basically an income statement. That's why I prefaced it by saying it was a balance sheet question. So.
We don't have all of those compiled yet for 2023. That
Okay,
stuff
that's
we'll
fine.
be working with the Ray and
With the
Associates
audit.
team.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Keep moving on. So the next thing we had on the agenda was to talk about water and sewer rates, and we wanted to bring this up to this committee.
Okay, again, just make sure I look both ways, okay, before I walk out, okay? There were no other questions on the financials? Okay, good. So you can see everybody, I can't. Okay, thank you. Okay, proceed, please.
Sure, thank you. So this was a presentation that was given to City Commission this week, and I don't know if Director Klein wants to give it again. Guess not. So we were supposed to meet last Friday, and obviously this meeting got pushed back to today, but just as a kind of a summary of the presentation that was given to Commission about water and sewer rates. The rate increases that we've done previously were in 2015. They did a 7-year rate increase. So 2015 through 2021, there was rate increases. 2022 and 2023, and so far in 2024, we have not done any rate increases for water and sewer. So it's not that we haven't been evaluating them. We've been looking at them. It's never something that anyone takes lightly to raise people's water and sewer rates. Obviously, that hits every household and every resident here, and we're conscientious of that, knowing that everything's gone up in price. So we've delayed this as long as we can, and we absolutely are to the point where we need to do something with the rates. So when they did this rate study back in 2015, they looked at their annual revenue and they projected out where revenues would be in the future with the rate increases that they gave. You'll see in the couple slides back that the projections did not pan out. It's hard. You're going out 7 years. You don't know. You'll see that there was a lot of water consumption reduction. So a lot of people at home, whether low flow toilets, washing machines that put, a gallon of water, I swear, in those sometimes, people have reduced what they use in water consumption in their homes. So you'll see that obviously when the usage is reduced, obviously our revenue is reduced.
Michelle, I see Mr. Klein back there. We had met a number of years ago and decided that we were going to try to do this on a gradual basis, try to look forward, instead of all of a sudden come 3 years, 4 years down the line, and Mr. Rozak all of a sudden has to tell us that we need to have an 8% increase or some drastic number. That's what happened to us the last time, and we were trying to avoid that. I think that's, Mr. Klein, I hate to put you on the spot like that, but that's pretty much when you and Mr. Murray and myself met, that's kind of why we're going with these gradual. When I say gradual, I don't like paying any more than anybody else, but I also don't want to see huge increases.
Yeah, that was several years ago, and it was something that, at the time, we said we're going to look at it 2 or 3 years before the rates expire, the increases expire, so there were 7 years that were implemented back then. But the problem was that would have been in 2020 timeframe that we would have been looking at it, and it was impossible to predict where things were going to be, not only usage, but also revenues were prices for services and materials and different things like that. So we had to delay, we had to kind of pull back. Plus, I think what was more important for us was that we also knew that the residents of the city were really struggling financially to make ends meet at home. There were all the discussions about those types of things. So we wanted to take that step back. So that's why now when the commission asked us to take a look at water and sewer rates again a few months ago, we said, okay, this is probably the right time. Things have stabilized with the economy a little bit, so we'll take a look and we'll move forward and make recommendations.
We want to stay proactive and not reactive. Thank you, Eric.
All right, so this next slide on the screen here is our fund balances. As you see, the green line is our sewer revenue. Our blue line here is the water revenue. So the water fund balance is getting to the point where it's very concerning, and that's the reason we need to react sooner on the water rates. The sewer rates, we're looking to make no changes in 2024 or 2025. This screen here shows the revenue. Top line is the sewer revenue for the city. The green dotted line here at the bottom is the sewer revenue that we get from the county. Blue line, solid blue line is the revenue from the city water fund, and then the lighter blue line is from the water from the county. So just for everyone's reference, we do have agreements with the county on the water and sewer side of the utilities. The water agreement with the county, whatever percentage increase we give to our residents, their rate automatically goes up the same amount. So when we're talking about rate increases, the rate increases will be the same for the city side versus the county side. They will be the same. The revenues, this is where we talked briefly before. The dark green line at the top is where we thought revenues were going to be. The lighter green line is where the revenues actually came in. The green here again is for the sewer. So you can see, there's major dips. Like Aaron just talked about in 2020 with COVID, obviously a lot of businesses were shut down. There was a lot of changes in people's habits also where, we don't have businesses that are open 24/7 anymore. Employment issues, whether there's staffing shortages and people are shut down for an extra shift a day or whatever it may be. So that's on the sewer side. Dark blue line here is the water fund. Dark blue is where we projected water to be, and here's where we're actually seeing the actual water revenue coming in. So obviously quite a difference in the projections versus where things came in. Here's also the usage. So as we talked before, we've seen a decline in usage. So, everybody at home has, cut back. Businesses have, everyone's cutting expenditures, I guess. So wherever they can, if they're using less water, it's less of a bill that they're going to receive from us. But it's concerning that we are seeing a downward trend. These slides here break down the expenditures. Your water is shown first. The red line at the top is the personnel. People are going to say that we have too many people. There's minimums that we have to do. We obviously have a water plant. We have a sewer plant. We've got to staff those plants. So here's your figure for personnel. We were at $3 million in 2017, and we're $3.2 million 5 years later. The orange line is our debt service, $1.6 million in 2017, and we're just over $2 million in 2023. Blue line is supplies and materials. We'll have a slide on the chemical cost. That is one of the main contributors to the supplies and materials is chemicals. If anybody tried to buy fertilizer since COVID happened, the cost of that has skyrocketed. It is the same thing that's happening here for our water chemicals. Green line at the bottom is our travel and training. This slide is for the sewer expenditures. Red line again is the personnel. We were at $3.2 million in 2017. We're at $3.4 million 5 years later. Pretty consistent. You'll see a little spike here. That would be for a payout of a retired employee. When we talked earlier about the payroll stabilization only handles employees that are in the general fund. So water and sewer funded employees pay for their own expenses when someone retires. The orange line here is our debt service, $2.7 million in 2017, and we're $3.2 million in 2023. Contractual services is the purple line there in the middle. Blue line here is the supplies and materials, and then the green line is the travel and training. These slides show our full-time employees. So not only do we have the plant, so this is Big Island water plant up here. Green line is our water distribution folks. These are the employees that are down in the trenches fixing lines and doing things like that. The administrative support are the bodies around here that do all the support, whether it's the finance office, the engineering office, people that support the water and sewer activities. The blue line down here is our customer accounting office, which is the office that everyone sees when they first enter City Hall that collect the water and sewer bills. This is broken down the same way for the sewer fund. This is for, the red line at the top is for the wastewater treatment plant employees. The green is for our sewer maintenance, the line workers, again, the guys that are in the trenches fixing lines, looking at water and sewer meters. Purple is the administrative support, and blue line is customer accounting again. Here's a slide that shows the chemical cost. If you look at any of these, the purple line, this ferrous chloride solution, it was $70,000 in 2019, and now we're up to $243,000. All these chemicals are contractual. The Public Works Department does a great job, and they team up with the county and a couple other cities and buy chemicals in bulk. So we're getting the best price that we can for all of these chemicals. This slide shows our water fund, what it would do if we had no increases. Target balance here is shown at the top in orange, and all of these blue lines are going into the negative of where our actual balance would be. So obviously we couldn't sit around any longer and do nothing with the water fund rates. This is a comparison of the city of Sandusky versus surrounding communities on what they're charging for water and also sewer. Some of these don't have sewer charges because it's rural areas where they have a septic system. So with our new rates of what we'll be proposing, we're estimating $73.38 is what the average family will be paying. I'm sorry, this is current. It's going to go up from there. Sorry. So this was the current at $73.38. But compared to some of these other folks, there's areas that they're paying $66 just for water service. Our water rates are the lowest in the area, can't be touched. Here's our sewer fund with no increase. Very troublesome out here. Orange again is your target balance, and green is where we would actually be projected to be if we did nothing with the sewer rates. We talked briefly before. Here's the history of the water and sewer rate increases. Anything that's in gray is when there was no change or a decline to the rate. The last time the rates were done increase was in 2015. It was for the 7-year period. So there was a 25% increase in 2015 to the water and sewer fund, and again in 2016. In 2017, there was a 7% to water fund and 25% still to sewer. And then going out from there, the water fund had a 3% increase, sewer had a 5%, and then 3% through 2021. Again, there was no rate increases for 2022, 2023, and so far in 2024. What we're looking to recommend for rate changes in 2024, we're looking for a 15% increase to the water rate, Now, when you're comparing this to home usage, and we're looking at 5 CCF, which is 500 cubic feet, the average cost that the resident will see as an increase is only $3.32. So people see 15% and think, oh my gosh, my bill is going up 15%. The 15% is only on the water side of the bill, and it's based off of usage. So again, that number equates to $3.32 that people will see on a monthly bill increase with this new rate. For 2025, again, it would be a 15% increase to the water fund, and 0% to the sewer fund. It's about $3.80 that would be increased that year. Going forward, 2026 through 2030, we're looking at a 3% increase for water and a 3% increase to sewer. And here's the monthly amounts that we're estimating would be increased for a resident that's using 5 CCF per month. So again, we're trying to target the dollar figure and not the percentage. The percentage, when someone hears 15%, and if they're paying $80, they're thinking, oh my gosh, my bill's going up a lot. But in actuality, when you look at the usage, we're looking at $3.32. So with those projected numbers of an increase, we're still concerned with the water fund in 2024. Here's where our target balance should be. We're going to be hopefully right above zero. There will be some transfers and advances from the general fund to the water fund this year. Next year, in 2024, you'll see that our blue line here is the increases that we should receive or project to receive in the water fund as we go throughout the next couple years. There are some EPA mandates coming. We'll have to address those separately. The Public Works team, they're always looking and dealing with the EPA. There's lead service lines and some other things that are going to come into play, and we'll deal with those as the time comes and the legislation comes and guidance that we get from the EPA that we need to deal with things, we will. Sewer fund, so as we said, we have sufficient balance in the sewer fund at the moment, so there's no increases for 2024 or 2025. They'll start in 2026. It's just 3% going out. You'll see even at 3%, we're declining in balance. The projections are in the sewer fund. But again, we can make adjustments to this. This just gives us at least 7 years. The rates are in place. We can make adjustments as we go. This slide here shows, a 5/8 inch meter, which is your typical residential meter. The new minimum would be $24.57, and that's just the minimum bill. That's your water and sewer amounts combined. So that includes 1 CCF of water. This is really hard to read, but this references the 5 CCF. The new bill would be the $76.65 compared to the $73.35 that it was before. So that shows the $3.32 increase per month. This final slide is the one that shows the actual new rates for 2024. It gets us to $76.65, still comparing it to other communities in the area. Again, $25.36 on the water side. We're still the lowest in the area. Sewer side, we're at $51.29. Those sewer rates vary a lot. We're definitely not the highest, but each community has their own long-term control plans and other mandates from the EPA that they need to deal with on the sewer side. So $76.65 is what we're looking at for an average resident in Norwalk starting in 2024. So we had a presentation at Commission this last Monday. We plan to have legislation in front of them at their next meeting with these proposed rates. And we just wanted to bring this to you guys today just as knowledge so that in case you guys are getting questions from the public, or if you guys have any questions from us, we're happy to answer them.
I just want to go on record as indicating that we are being, Mr. Klein, proactive as we had talked previously. I don't want to pay one more dime than I have to, but you still have to keep the water pumping, and there's certain things in the sewer that the EPA doesn't give us a choice on. They said you will do it at this time, and I noticed that when we do get down to the capital budget, some things you, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Klein, you can't figure out what's going on, because the EPA might get up one morning and decide that you need to spend X dollars.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely true, especially on the sewer side. Like you said, we have what most communities would call a long-term control plan, which are mandates by EPA. We're in the last year of that long-term control plan right now, as far as the current suite of projects, but we're supposed to work with them on developing another suite of projects. We're going to keep those costs as absolutely low as we possibly can and hope that we can make sure that the residents aren't paying something that's unnecessary.
I just agreed with Michelle. Again, we don't need to act on anything. If we have any questions, obviously, we can ask, but again, I hate to put you on the spot. It's something that we're going to have to do, because I was here when we had to do the 8% increase or whatever it was, because we were not watching things.
Right.
And we had some large deficits.
And if you don't mind, I think it's important to also note, I know it showed on the screen on the chart with the individual O&M items, but it also showed the debt service, and it had gone up a little bit over the last few years. But I think it's also very important to note that that debt service went up on the sewer side mostly because of those EPA requirements that we had no choice in doing, which was why we had increased the rates to implement those projects. On the water side, it was more, I think most people would agree that we couldn't get by with Perkins Avenue kicking that water line down the road anymore. That's why we went out and got the grant funding for that as well to minimize those. Venice Road, we had to do the water line out there on Venice Road to stop businesses from shutting down every time we had a main break. There were so many things that we had delayed doing for 10, 15, 20, 25 years that it was imperative that we got them done now. But I think the most important thing that I would like to note is that chart only showed through 2023. If we take that out to 27, a lot of those large items that were brought into play and the projects that were implemented in the 2000s roll off the books. So even though it showed an increase of what our debt service is in 23, that number is actually significantly lower in 2026, 2027 when those other items roll off the books. So we're sitting pretty good. And when you get to the capital plan, some of those, a couple of those slides did show the numbers that we were going to include in the capital plan, and we're right at that with the sewer and water rates as far as debt or just project costs that we're going to be implementing over the next couple of years.
And that's why, Michelle, it's so critical that we have the financial statement and the reserves, because the bond rating, the last couple of times we've gone out either for notes or bonds, obviously everybody knows interest rates are up, but we have been very successful because we are financially stable of getting the lowest rates out there. And over a period of time, I mean, you can't do everything out of cash. We have to either go to notes or bond it. And we've been very successful with that. Again, there's no action we have to take. I just, when Michelle said something about putting it out to vet it, again, I've not looked at any numbers that anybody else hasn't, but if anybody has any questions or comments, Mr. Stahl.
Good morning. Mr. Brady, it would be helpful for you, for the city commission, if we pass our approval on the water and sewer adjustments as.
Mr. Stahl, I think that's always, that always is welcome, never required. But I can tell you that many of our residents look to and view this committee as being a true voice of reason when it comes to finances. And that's why we make an attempt to get these things before this committee, before we formally act as a commission and vote on them. I'm going to have this legislation before our commission on our next meeting on the 26th. So I do think that it would be significant if this committee, after hearing this report, would give us a vote of support on that. And in that same regard, this might be a good opportunity for me to make a statement regarding, you've sat through two presentations now in the last half an hour. One obviously is on our finances, and the other one is on this water rate increase. They are intricately tied together. And what do I mean by that? Our staff, and to a smaller degree, or some degree, our commission has put this city, I think, in the best possible financial position we've ever been in. That's the result of prudent financial activity. And I think we all can be proud of that, and this committee can be proud of that also. We're trying to do, and we intend to do exactly the same thing with the water fund. It would be irresponsible for our commission, I believe, to not vote for this increase. You cannot allow your water fund to go broke. We're not just serving 25,000 residents here, we're serving 77,000 residents of the county, or a vast majority of the residents of the county we're serving also. So I think that our commission, I'm hopeful that this legislation will pass, but our commission, I think, has a responsibility to increase the rates to keep this viable, just as we have brought to you very glowing, I think, glowing financial reports. That's a long-winded explanation of asking for your support. I understand that.
I may have to take Greg again, so.
You got more than you asked for, didn't you?
Yeah. No, I think that would be a good idea. Again, I'm not exactly sure what motion that we have reviewed, what has been presented to us today, and that it's our opinion that the city commission vote for approval of it. I think that just, if I can phrase the motion that way, I am going to actually take a vote on this one, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I haven't been a student of the city commission. I think it might be more appropriate if we say that we approve the sewer and water and sewer rates as requested this morning. Would it be?
Water rate increase.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
water.
gotta say, we
Just
got to
water.
put the whole.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been around so long, I threw water and sewer together. The water rates as discussed this morning. Just as simple as that.
Yes. So would you like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Would you call the motion?
Sure, I'll take roll. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas-Hula?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
Mr. Russot?
Yes.
Mr. Ramey?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr.
Okay.
Orzak? Ms. Reader says yes.
Approved. Again, hopefully that helps to some degree with, again, Mr. Brady, as you said, every once in a while, somebody will stop me and say, why do I do this? And why have I done it for more years? I can remember. Your hair got grayer than mine. But I think that this gives us an opportunity, and Mr. Orzak, hopefully this helps you too with the, with the backing of the committee. So with that, that's taken care of. Now, do you want to give us a summary of the, I apologize for the length of this meeting, but the 5-year capital plan?
Sure, Director Klein will give you
I got you again.
summary version.
Yes. What you guys are seeing is a very, very much abbreviated version. We have another 15 pages that were passed on to staff that list all the projects. In the past, the committee has said they don't need a list of all the projects, just where the finances are. So that's what's being presented. This is exactly what we've given in the past. So what the plan started back in 2015 timeframe, and we've been updating it every year. So this is where we are now. What you're looking at is around a $73 million budget for 2024. It is a 5-year plan, so we also have that information for 25 through 28 if anybody's interested. What you will see is the plan is typically front-loaded, and this year it's even a little more heavily front-loaded because we still have the remaining 8 million-ish in stimulus funding that needs to be encumbered before the end of 2024. So, you know, projects that really dictate the funding are things, the larger projects that are going to be like the rec center, the landing, MacArthur Park, all of those things that are incorporated into the plan. It's broken down. I don't think anybody really wants to look at the spreadsheet I look at. It's enormous, but it's broken down, and I've consolidated certain things. If you see on here where it says major infrastructure, that includes issue 8, parking and admissions tax, CDBG, available capital funds, stimulus funds. So there's a lot that goes into each one of these columns on here. So if anybody has any questions, if anybody wants any more information, if anybody wants to sit down and talk about it, we're hoping to present this at the commission meeting. This has been sent to staff. Honestly, these numbers have already changed a little bit. For example, that public grants and loans, my new number is already down to 32.3 rather than 33 point whatever is on this one that I can't read.
My memory serves me correct. When we looked at the sewer and water rates and wanted to do out, that's the same thing we wanted to do with a capital plan.
Yes.
That we had asked you to not only do it for the next year, but let's kind of look and see what we're going to need for the next 5 years. Obviously, it's a moving target depending upon what breaks, what doesn't break.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to sit down and talk about it, I can provide more information and certainly make my door open for anybody that has any more questions, emails, anything like that. So if you have anything.
Mr. Brady, would you like a motion from this committee for this also, or?
I think a soft motion like that
Yes.
would be appropriate if you're
Yes.
willing to endorse that, and we'll go from there.
Yes. I would take a motion that we endorse what we have seen at the high level, and
Second it.
I didn't know who made it. Okay. Why don't you, again, when you're all seeing we're doing this, why don't you take a roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasula?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Ramey?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Where's-
If this unravels, we can now blame the Finance Committee.
Oh, you didn't tell him that he picks up the deficit?
You didn't read those 17 pages.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add one thing. Obviously, this is a plan, but one of the projects over $10,000 goes back to commission.
Yes.
For their vote and approval. So it's, the plan is in place, but all these are going to be vetted by and approved by commission. So I just want everybody aware of that.
Yes. Thank you. Just, again, we wanted the 35,000 foot. Yes. And that works. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to talk about? If not, then I will go to, all the public kind of left me other than Mr. Crable. Man, was it that boring? Jeff?
He's not the public, he's one of us.
I'm sorry.
It was a slow morning.
Any comments or?
I'm
Okay.
here to learn.
Okay. Anything further from any of the committee members? Again, apologize for the length of this one, but IT was part of it. It wasn't Mr. Stahl talking all the time.
Don't count on this. As everyone here knows, I usually talk a little bit more than I did this morning.
If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yep.
Everybody,
weekend.
thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Joe.
Aaron, sorry to put you on the hook for sick.